hope that started. All right. So welcome, welcome. I'm Margaret Edwards. I am a speech therapist in public school systems in the state of Washington. And I've been volunteering with NWACS, I don't know, maybe for a couple of years, I'm not sure. But yeah, so NWACS has helped push me forward for my love of AAC and teaching AAC. So that's why I'm with NWACS. So, and then we have Joe is here.
Hi, I'm Joe Naylor. I'm a speech language pathologist and I currently live in Utah and I'm working in the public school system.
And we have Molly as well.
Hi, I'm Molly. I'm a speech language pathologist as well at Providence Children's Center in Everett, Washington. And I've been with NWACS for just a few months. And I do lots of different types of speech at Children's, mostly AAC. And so, yeah, let me know if you have any questions.
So I thought that I would ask you all who's here today and have you raise your hand when I said something, but I can't see you. So maybe if you could just put in the chat if you're like parent, caregiver, professional, what you do for a living, if it's related to AAC or something like that. It'll just take like 30 seconds. If you put it in the chat, then I can know who's here today. Parents, yes. Welcome, parents. Lovely. Parents. SOP, grandma. Parents, lovely. Great. Love having all the parents here. This is wonderful. Adults. Okay. Interesting. Thank you. Thank you for doing that. So I'm just guessing there's this range of experience here. We have parents all the way to, from people who are SLPs. So just know that today we're talking about modeling. We're just talking about one aspect of AAC. So the field of AAC is big, broad, and wide. This is just one arm of it. So that we're going to talk about today. We're slated to be done at 6:45, but as long as you keep asking questions, I will stay here and answer them. All right. So let me just tell you quickly about who NWACS is. It stands for the Northwest Augmentative Communication Society. Founded late 70s. It's one of the oldest, longest running organizations in this area that supports people who use AAC. NWACS has an annual conference. It's usually in October. So if you're curious about that, let me know and make sure that you get the info in October. And we are all volunteers. We are here to serve you. Let us know what you need. So first thing is, so we're talking about modeling today. So when you think about modeling, what comes to your mind? What comes to your box? Just put in the chat a few words about what you think about, especially when in terms of AAC, not modeling clothes on a runway, but in terms of AAC, what is it that you first think of when you hear modeling? And I'll look at the chat. No thought? Okay. Yeah. There we go. Yes, thank you, Brandon. So what Brandon said here was key, is showing them how to do something without any expectation, and we'll get to that a little bit later. Yes, you're right, demonstrating. The key thing about modeling with AAC is There's no expectation. So you have to keep it separate in your mind when you're working with a student that uses AAC. Are you modeling, or are you really trying to prompt them and asking them to do something? Because the difference is pretty significant. So when you're modeling with AAC, you're just showing the user how they can use their device. And using a device is talking with symbols, unless they're using not a symbol-based AAC device. When you model, you don't have to speak every single word on a device. Some of the words you can just speak, and then you'll model on the device the keywords. It's important that when you touch the icon on the device, that you also say the word out of your mouth. That both have to happen together simultaneously. And later you'll see a visual of why that is important. You're modeling for a context in a variety of contexts for lots of different reasons. So you're modeling requesting, you're modeling rejecting, like don't want, you're modeling commenting like that, you're modeling social language, how are you? So this will cover, all day or that you're modeling, because you have to model more than, I want. Sometimes people get stuck in the I want, but model lots of things. Another thing you have to model is making and repairing mistakes, because the AAC user, unless they're really advanced, are going to make some mistakes at times. And so if you model making mistakes, then they'll know that that's fine, it's okay. And also looking for buttons. Sometimes it can get kind of awkward when you don't know where a button is that you want to press to model for the AAC user. But it's okay to sit in that silence while you're looking for a button to model for the AAC user. Joe, I'm sorry. Go, Joe.
Why? Don't apologize for anything. It's very true. And one thing that everyone notices, and that I usually point out to caregivers and children, is everybody makes mistakes when they communicate. So I've made mistakes and selected the wrong icon. So it's typical, and that's the way it goes. So as far as how we model, Gail Porter is a wonderful model. She works with POD, and a lot of times it's scary to learn a new language, and you have to be immersed in the language to be able to learn it. So anybody who's traveled to another country or even to another state, there are different words that you will learn and that you will encounter. So typically, if you're immersed in the language, the top part is, the input is spoken language and you're hearing it, so you will develop spoken language. For children with AAC who may or may not be verbal, they will hear spoken language and they're expected to use aided language. So that's where modeling comes into play, because one thing that I have, just because you give someone technology does not mean they immediately are able to use it. So you need to model the language that you expect the AAC user or the other communicator to actually communicate in. That's one thing that's really important.
Next.
Yes, please.
Okay.
So our aim for using child learning aided, for helping a child learn aided language, is the input is the aided language. It can also be spoken language. It could also be sign language, because people communicate in different ways. And the person in the middle is the child who's getting the input. And that child can give you an output either using the aided language, spoken language, and or sign language. It's not one or the other. I totally encourage multimodal communication, and that's using everything that you can to communicate. Because as verbal communicators, we use or look at the nonverbal, and I use my hands a lot. I'm Italian, so I'm very expressive. And when I'm also modeling on an aided system, like voice output, picture symbols, anything that I'm using, I'm giving that input, but I'm also expecting the same output. And when the user is communicating with me, I try to use the same technology to answer or to communicate. And I believe Molly is going next.
Yeah, so who are the people that should model using an AAC device? The communication partner can be anyone, anyone who's talking to the AAC user. This could be teachers, this could be peers, parents, therapists, including OTs and like occupational therapists, physical therapists, perhaps ABA providers. So anyone that spends time with the AAC user should spend time learning that child's device or that person's system. Device could refer to the speech generating device. It could refer to the iPad that has a communication application on it. It could refer to their system, which may be a paper-based system. So whoever is using, whoever is communicating with that AAC user should be learning how to model on that child or that person's system. And they should be presuming that that child has potential to learn how to communicate using that system. The way that we assume that a child is going to learn how to speak verbally as a baby, we talk to them all day long. And we assume that they're going to learn to speak the way that we speak. Well, when we know that a child is needing an alternative form of communication, we need to assume that they have the potential to learn how to communicate using another form of communication. So while you're learning how to model, something that you should be focusing on as a parent or a therapist or a caregiver of a person with AAC is becoming fluent. And like it was mentioned earlier, it's okay to make mistakes. You can talk through your mistakes. Oops, I didn't mean to hit this word. Oh man, oh, I said look, I meant to say like. Just like we all make mistakes in our verbal communication, you want to comment on your error and show them, oops, that's not right. And then you can say it the correct way. Another thing that we want to take into consideration is using a prompt hierarchy. This may be unfamiliar for some of the parents and caregivers who are listening today. A prompt hierarchy is providing support to the child in a specific order. You can provide support in a variety of different ways. And I'm going to talk through a couple of what those ways are. And I'm going to talk from what is considered least invasive to most invasive, meaning the least amount of support to the most amount of support. So the least amount of support is an expectant pause. You know, you're waiting for them to communicate. A nonverbal prompt, like your body language, pointing towards it using an expectant facial language. An indirect verbal prompt, which would be something like, now what? Or what should we do next? Requesting a response. So tell me what you want, or you need to ask me. A gestural cue. So tapping near the word that you want them to say. A partial verbal prompt. So, you went to the, and then waiting for them to fill in the blank. A direct model, which we're talking about primarily today, is modeling, but this would be with the expectation that they imitate you, showing them what to say. And then the most invasive is a physical assistance. So hand over hand or hand under hand helping, which typically many clinicians will recommend that you do very sparingly so that they don't become dependent on that support. That would be a way to how much you are cueing them. Okay, we can go to the next slide. So how often should you model? As often as possible. We know that parents are busy, caregivers are busy. So it's a good idea to try to maybe set some goals for yourself, like a certain number of times in an hour, and start slow, start with a small number and increase it as you can. Another good way to do that is to pick specific times throughout the day where you're purposefully focusing on modeling, maybe during daily routine times, bath time, a specific play activity. But not everybody is home all day with their kids and has the unlimited availability to be modeling. So we want you to be fitting it in as it makes sense for your life. This link that is available here is to a short article on the do's and don'ts of using AAC. And Jane Kirsten remarks that the average 18-month-old has been exposed to over 4,000 hours of speech, 8 hours a day since birth. And so if we think about an AAC user, it would take 84 hours or more, 84 years or more to receive this amount of info if they're only going to speech 2 times a week. So we know that just sending your child to speech therapy to learn how to use AAC is not going to create the quickest results. The rest of the team members and family members in that child's life do need to be involved and be modeling as much as possible to give them as much input, which will then hopefully lead to increased output, meaning they'll use it to communicate their wants and needs and thoughts and feelings. And here is a short video from a company called Assistivewear, which is a company that makes a speech generating application for iPads. And so you might be familiar with Proloquo to Go. That's one of the products that this company makes. And here is a short video explaining modeling.
Modeling. Use AAC to teach AAC. No matter where you are in your adventure to build communication with AAC, modeling is a valuable strategy. Modeling means you point to words on the AAC tool as you speak. Ready, set,
Go.
go! Look, I like this book. Ah, look, we go to places, more outdoor places. Beach.
We go to beach.
We went to the beach. You cannot simply place an AAC tool in front of someone and expect that they will know how to use it to communicate. We need to model. AAC learners need to see AAC in use to communicate real messages in real situations. So, point to words on the AAC. When you first start, it can be difficult and feel clumsy. Everyone feels that way at first. Start small and build up your modelling. Focus on a few words to model at first. Every time you model, it will get easier. The most important thing is to start, give it a go. Get others involved. Who else in the team can model? Get friends, family members, classmates and siblings modelling. The more the merrier. Now, you can model on your iPad or device, or even on a paper-based version. Model throughout the day, especially during real, meaningful and motivating activities. Model in conversations. Show how you can use different words to communicate different messages. You do not have to model every word that you say. And sometimes the grammar might be wrong. All these things are okay. Modeling does not need to be perfect. You will make mistakes. Every time the learner sees you model, it builds their knowledge. Your modeling will help them to learn how they can use words to communicate. Make it fun and enjoy the adventure. For more information, read our full article in Learn AAC.
Feel free to ask questions, anyone, at any time. Otherwise, Joe?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm still here. Okay, aided language stimulation is a textbook term for modeling with any AAC system. So one thing that you want to do, as Molly mentioned, is pick a time when you can model, and then just decide how many times you're going to model. One thing that speech pathologists always need to do when we come up with goals is to make sure it's measurable. And it doesn't have to be 50 times, it doesn't have to be 25 times. It depends on the situation. Also, you can increase the number of times that you're modeling and or decrease the number of times that you're modeling. I've worked with some adults who, once you show them how to find different settings or find different icons, don't want me doing as much modeling. So it's kind of hard sometimes to sit back and let people who are new to using a system make mistakes, but that's how everybody learns language. So there's a need to kind of step back when necessary. If the user looks at you like, I'm really got this, I'm good. So it's typical with any conversation. One thing I do want to say is silence sometimes is deafening, and a lot of people will try to fill that silence and finish statements for AAC users. One main thing that I emphasize is patience. It's not easy. It's kind of like when you're ordering your lunch at McDonald's, they're trying to find icons to get your order correct. So as much patience as you use with the AAC user, you're going to be hopefully using with everybody else, and they will also use patience with you. One thing that we haven't mentioned yet that we'll need to talk about, and actually it's my next point, is to model the access, how they access the system. There's direct selection where you can use your finger or you can use a stylus. There's also eye gaze. I don't know how many people have used eye gaze. It is not easy. One thing that I work with and model for all of my clients and all of my caregivers is me using eye gaze. And it is not easy at all. So that's another place where patience needs to come in, because you're using a whole different system to access communication. And I've actually had AAC users that are using eye gaze select tired after about 5 minutes because their brain is not used to using eye gaze. And there are other ways to access different AAC systems. So, people have used switches, Big Macs. I don't know if those are terms that you all are familiar with. If anybody wants to put in the chat how they or the person they work with accesses their AAC, that would be really enlightening and helpful to us as presenters to talk about modeling more specifically in future presentations. Does anybody have any questions or comments or want to put anything in the chat? Okay, eye gaze. Yes, that is awesome.
That's
a
just-
head switch.
I'm
Awesome.
just sorry, the eye gaze was just me saying what it is for people who might not know.
Oh, that's fine. No, I appreciate that. Okay, direct selection. Yeah, eye gaze is difficult. Daniela, I acknowledge that I've tried it, and that's how I found out I have astigmatism in my left eye, so I can't use eye gaze most of the time. Number of times. Awesome. That's good. Okay, so there are different accesses, which is awesome. It's good to see that there's more than one way to use it. Okay, and there's a difference between modeling and prompting. So as far as modeling, it's on the left side of the screen, is when you show someone how to do something and you're not putting any expectations on the user. So if you're looking for cookie and you select cookie, that's the model. Okay, that's where cookie is. As far as prompting is concerned, then you're trying to encourage the AAC user to use the device or the system. And there is an expectation that they will produce some kind of message, even if it's not what they expected to do. And that happens with everybody, no matter what system they're using to communicate. So it could be low tech, high tech, sign language, verbal, partial verbal, a hybrid approach. So there is a difference between modeling and prompting, and the main one is the expectations.
So this, I wanted to show you this resource, and it's going to take me a second to get to exactly what I want to show you. But as I'm scrolling through, I sort of did this intentionally because I want you to see this resource. This is a good, she has so many downloads that are free. And we're just gonna, I'm gonna search for the one about modeling. But as I do, just have a look. Let's see. Lots of photos. I'll get to it. So this source has, she's just providing you the exact language that you can use when modeling during all these activities. You know, at a restaurant, when you're reading, playing a video game, on a trampoline. Sorry, that's not exactly what I wanted to show you. Let me see if it's under this folder. But again, these are free. Okay, here we go. So these are even more resources. So we talked about modeling when there's no expectation, you're just modeling. So you can read these. I'll just read a couple. Modeling using AAC to talk to your learner or the AAC user across the day before bed, while watching TV, on a walk, not just therapy or class. Like we mentioned before, therapy is not enough for modeling. It has to be done more often than that, because that's not enough hours of modeling. Respecting your learner's right to communicate what, when, how, to whom they want. So when you're modeling, you are respecting them, that they don't have to say anything right now. You're just talking to them using their mode of communication and not putting any demands on them. Here's something that's interesting. Even if they don't respond to what you say, just keep modeling. And that could be kind of hard sometimes, because we always want the person to say something back, but that may not happen. But just keep modeling. So this is sort of an interactive, let's see, I don't know, we'll just do a couple. We'll see if I can, how I can figure out how we can do this together. Project Core is another awesome resource. Encourage you to go there. Oh, it did not go to the form that I thought it was going to go to, that I thought it was linked to. So I'm not going to take time to try and find it. But there is here on Project Core, there's like a module of teaching how you can determine if you're modeling or if you're prompting. So sorry that didn't open. Oh, that's because it's right here. I clicked on the wrong one, sorry. So it's this one. But again, we're kind of running short on time, so we won't do it together. But if the adult says, this is the symbol for the word do, I'll help you touch it. Is that encouraging the AAC user, or is that requiring? So is that, and just so you know, that's requiring. Because if you say, I'll help you touch it, then you're requiring them to do something. And that's not modeling. So one more quick video here. Not too long, I think it's about 2 minutes.
Hi everyone, I'm Sarita and welcome to the Communication Toolbox. Today we're going to talk about a strategy called aided language stimulation, which can really help people learn to use AAC. For a child to learn to use AAC, like a communication book, a communication board, or perhaps a device, they need to see people around them using their AAC strategy. This is when we use a strategy called aided language stimulation, or ALS. Aided language stimulation is a commonly used strategy and is sometimes also known as modelling. It involves pointing to pictures on a person's AAC as you speak. You might use the child's AAC with aided language stimulation, or you might have your own AAC that you can use next to the child. In ALS, we can point to keywords that match to what they're saying. For example, I could say, "Where shall we go?" Think about the child's current communication and model at a level that matches. For example, if a child is not using words yet, you could just point to one word. But if they're learning to put words together, you might point to 2 words. Research shows that using ALS can help a child learn to use the AAC strategy by showing them what the pictures mean, showing them how to use it, and letting them see that their AAC strategy is used and valued by people around them. Thanks for watching. To learn more about ALS, get in touch. You could have a look at our Facebook page, check out our YouTube channel, or have a look on our website.
Okay. So anybody want to share about their experience using aided language stimulation or modeling? What went well? What are the challenges? What questions you might have? You don't have to, but if you want to. No? Okay. Then questions. Again, you don't have to have questions, but if you do, this time sort of set aside for if there are any questions. Okay, if not, then again, I just have to tell you how much I appreciate it. Just a second, let me check the chat. Someone's asking, what are some signs it's time to transition from modeling to prompting? So modeling is done with prompting. So you don't stop modeling and then start prompting. So prompting probably and modeling will start together, go together, and end together. So you don't change from one to the other. If that makes sense, Brandon. I hope that answers your question. When you do want to prompt is when you kind of need the student to say something. That usually happens because you need to take some data, but yeah.
I would say in my experience, depending on what function of language I'm targeting, may it be requesting, rejecting, commenting, labeling, that I model a lot in the beginning, and then I create opportunities through prompting and continue to model. But I would say I start with modeling, just like you do with verbal language. The way we talk to young children, we model language without expecting them to say it, but then we get to a point where we know that they're starting to learn those target words that we've been teaching them, and then we create those opportunities for them to say those verbal words. And so it's very similar with AAC. You model a lot in the beginning, and then when you notice that they're starting to catch on, you create opportunities by prompting for them to use the target words or target functions.
So Shannon's saying that her son is familiar with the vocabulary on his talker. That's awesome. He doesn't like others using his device. That's a good point. I don't run into that very often, but you're right. So in that case, you could use a paper version of his of what's on his LAMP homepage to do some modeling. His mishits due to motor planning, that might be more of an access question or an access issue. And sometimes you can do things in, I don't know if he's using an iPad, sometimes you can kind of compensate for the mishits. You can use a key guard that can kind of help get their finger into the right icon. Does your son have a key guard, Shannon? Just wondering.
Another thing that might help Shannon is depending on how much vocabulary he is familiar with and would typically use at this given time is reducing how much language is visible on the screen by hiding some icons if they're words that he's not yet using, and that might help reduce the mishits.
Yeah, sorry, I unmuted myself. Yeah, so he just turned 3 and he knows like where every single word is on. It's crazy. He has a full vocabulary. He refuses to use it if I limit the vocabulary. Okay. He wants everything. He wants all his options. But yeah, like he'll sometimes go through like 5-6 words until he gets to what he wants. So I didn't know if it was like modeling would help him get to the word that he's really wanting. He's still sort of in like the exploratory phase of it. It's still fun for him. So I didn't know if modeling can be like more accurate with what he wants to say.
Yeah, so when you said like he goes through 4 or 5, he's going through 4 or 5 because he's accidentally hitting the wrong button. Is that correct?
It's both.
Oh, okay.
Sometimes he just wants to say words, random words, because he wants to. But sometimes they are mishits. So we're just trying to figure out, like to kind of help him be not have so many words in between. He just started school and they're asking him questions. He's just saying all this stuff. So
does he have a key guard? I don't know, just something to look at, maybe look into, see if that will help him. Because it kind of helps guide your finger to the right button.
Right. Okay, cool. Thank you.
You can always try it.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
Shannon, one thing that I've done is depending on the device, you could have it where it will talk when you lift your finger or when you select it. Yeah, so I've used different timing on that. And that has cut down the number of mishits for a lot of the clients that I work with, because if it's, depending on what device it is, if they hold their finger on it for too long, it may say something, it may not. So, that's kind of one thing, but the fact that he's enjoying it, honestly, and he knows everything that's on it is phenomenal. I want to say that makes me very happy, because I have a lot of parents who are like, well, we only know 4 words, and that's okay. You know 4 more than you knew last time. So
he started off that way and he was not having it. He wanted it all.